Hades is an awesome game. Big surprise, right? A title that's been awarded praise and acknowledgement from all around the internet and critics alike is good. However, I didn't play Hades until last month due to the sale it was on because of the early access release of Hades 2. I saw the overwhelmingly positive score, the amazing looking fast-paced gameplay, and thought, I'm sure that's worth the $8. And man, was that a crazy understatement. Hades is a roguelike action role-playing game from Supergiant Games, where you battle enemies and bosses from chamber to chamber to eventually escape the Underworld. It should also be classified as a Class A narcotic, as I've been addicted to it for weeks. It was fully released back in September of 2020 after about a year and a half of early access, first starting on December 6th of 2018. Now, I bring this up to simply explain the quality I talk about later in the video, as they made community feedback the main focus for almost 2 whole years with the early access period. At the beginning of development, it was a straight up goal of the developers to open up their development process to the community, so they could utilize player feedback in order to polish their game to the fullest extent. Now, the polish present in this game is hardly ever seen in the game industry today, and I just want to recognize that. As I said before, Hades is critically acclaimed and loved by a very large amount of people, and I am extremely late to the party. I got caught in traffic, guys, but I'm here now. I just want to disclaim that this won't be the deepest of dives or a heavily critiquing look, and will be more so me talking about the aspects I personally find enjoyable. I just want to talk about why I like it, and hopefully get those who haven't tried it to give it a shot. So, let me break it down for you guys. Because the narrative, the art, the gameplay, the music, oh my gosh, the music. All of these top-notch elements combine to make one hell of a game. Now, look, I'm not an expert on game development or design. I'm not a critic. I just want to talk about something I'm passionate about. I may go on a tangent here and there, as I understand some of my thoughts may boil down to, man, see cool thing, and brain explodes. However, this game really is awesomeness incarnate, and I cannot stress that enough. So, allow me to tell you why this game is actually a heaven-like experience. Welcome to Hades. As you most likely can already tell, Hades takes place in the world of Greek mythology. Now, using the Percy Jackson and God of War series as my only look into it, and the Hercules Disney movie, come on, I love that movie, top tier.
What are those?
I'd have to say the world of Greek mythology is pretty interesting, and Hades taking it to the length it does makes it even more so. The overarching plot is simply this. You are Zagreus, the son of Hades. Zagreus wishes to leave the underworld. Your father, Hades, says, "What? Are you serious?" No. So, you have to fight your way through the 3 layers of the underworld and their bosses to get to the surface. First, you have Tartarus, where you always fight one of the 3 Fury sisters. Second, you have Asphodel, where you fight a skeleton Hydra who likes to change his hairstyle up every so often. Third, you have Elysium, where you fight Theseus, a piece of shit, the son of Poseidon, paired with Asterius, a minotaur. Finally, ending in the Temple of Styx, facing Hades himself. However, throughout your experience, meet many other mythological characters, forge relationships, advance dialogue, and learn more and more about the underworld, along with the true origins and whereabouts of your biological mother. Whenever you do make it to the surface to find your mother, though, you can only stay there so long before you die of apparent severe IBS. Therefore, you're meant to journey up there over and over again to see your mom as much as possible and uncover more and more about your past. This game is full of content, like chock full of it. Every single time I thought I experienced the majority of what the game had to offer, there was just more and more around the corner. It's a game where every single time you think you've discovered everything, it shows you another 5 things to work toward. Hell, I don't even want to purchase Hades 2 until I wrap most of everything up. I'm just glad I found the game when I did. Now, yeah, the premise and overarching narrative are really interesting and intriguing, but let's talk about how the developers brought this narrative to life. Now, the art of Hades is very unique, and while I understand that art is subjective and all of our views on such are completely valid, come on, look how cool it looks. The character designs, attack animations, the environments, it just looks so Good! Not to mention, there is no 3D rendering in this game, being an isometric 2D title. Therefore, every single frame behind this game is an individual image, which I find extremely impressive. I actually got this information straight from some Steam discussion posts from one of the developers named Kid Zom, and I just wanted to make sure I credit them right here. Also, side tangent, this developer is constantly responding to posts and discussions about Hades 2 as well, and I find that pretty cool. It's just awesome to see the same developer who was answering questions about Hades 4 years ago is doing the same for the sequel now. I just thought that was neat. Now, yeah, the art is fantastic, but where did the inspiration actually come from? Well, Jenn Zee, the art director for Supergiant Games, mentioned in an interview with MCV UK that in their previous game, Pyre, she had become very interested in ink and pen artists, and also says that the inky influence that she had wanted to incorporate into Pyre was resurrected into Hades. She talks about how the team found inspiration in both Mike Mignola, a talented comic book artist and writer known for his unique and, well, just plain awesome illustrations. I mean, come on, just look at Batman. She also mentions how they also found influence in Fred Taylor, and just by taking glances at his poster work, you can tell how this influence helped attribute to the shading of Hades. Now, you would think that this unique art would take forever to create, especially with how it turned out so well. But Jenn Zee actually says that making all the assets in pen and ink was much faster than it would have been with regular painterly work. This proved to be a very productive decision, as when Jenn Zee was asked if she could put some numbers on the scale of the project, she said there were, let me just make sure, clear my throat here, there's a lot of numbers, 59 portraits, 68 models, 194 boon icons, 1,400 environment textures, 32,494 FX animation frames, and 942,489 animation frames for characters and enemies alike. Meanwhile, I have trouble working up the effort to get groceries. All of this dark shading and inkiness fit perfectly for the game, giving a sort of morbid atmosphere, but it's colorful and popping enough to not be dreary. Even though this game is set in the Underworld, it is just so full of life. Especially Elysium, like, come on man. Now that we've established that the game looks fantastic, how about we talk about the gameplay itself? Have you ever played a game where your controller kind of just sinks into your hands? Games like Hollow Knight, Sifu, and Sunset Overdrive to name a few. Ones where it almost doesn't even feel like there is a controller between you and your in-game actions. For me, Hades falls into that camp. While simple, the controls and gameplay elements are polished to the point where you could slip and slide across them. You have your general attack and special attack across all 6 weapons, your dash, and your cast, all of which can be heavily modified by the boons you acquire from the various Greek gods and goddesses you encounter throughout each run. These boons can modify your abilities from the point of just increasing range or damage, changing them completely, or adding buffs upon buffs. I also find it really cool how, depending on which Olympian you pick for each aspect of your loadout, the visual effects of your attack, special, and cast change to match up with their theme. I just wanted to point that out, I think it's neat. Each god and goddess has a more or less specific attribute when it comes to their boons. Artemis's buffs focus mainly on critical chance, Ares on pure damage output, Hermes on movement, Athena on defense, Poseidon on knockback, Zeus on area damage, Aphrodite with weakening effects on enemies, Demeter with her slowing chill effect, and Dionysus with damage over time effects. Now, none of these effects are really exclusive to each of them, but I just found these to be the general effects. To be completely honest with you, I was going to mention my favorite Olympians that I like to accompany my runs, but every single Olympian has such cool stuff, whether it's summoning an ice storm, giving a bunch of knockback on attacks, summoning arrows on every hit, and so many others, I can't even mention them all here. There isn't a single one where I think, aw man, I'd rather it be this one. I'm excited to see what every Olympian has in store for me every time I clear a chamber, and I feel like that is an amazing accomplishment. I think part of the reason I love Hades so much is due to the amount of choice present. This is because after most chambers you fight the hordes of enemies in, you typically have 2 ways to proceed, with a symbol on the front representing that level's reward. This reward could be an Olympian's boon, Charon's shop, cards that increase your life pool, weapon modifications, and many other things. And when it comes to the boons the Olympians provide, you always get 3 options to choose from. This ensures, no matter what, that every run is going to be different, and you'll always have a large say in how it's going to go due to your reward and boon choices. Now yes, there is a large amount of chance, being you never know what Olympians will be present in each run, the chambers differentiating, the boss fights occasionally changing up, and more. However, I'd argue it's the perfect amount of chance, always making sure the game stays fresh. Now, as I said before, there are 6 general weapons in the game, being the sword, spear, shield, bow, gauntlets, and gun.
I heard that you escaped. Then what are you still doing here? Forget something.
Now, that may sound generic, but I only describe them that way because there are actually 4 different variations of each weapon, with unique names and effects, which really brings up the weapon total to 24, at least in my opinion. There are definitely some variations that are more unique than others, but each has its own special thing going on. However, each weapon does have its own general game plan. The sword is close to mid-range, with a decently large AoE attack. It's the classic weapon of the game, and I happen to really like it actually. Buffing up the special and annihilating hordes of enemies with it at once is super satisfying. Next is the spear, which is a good mid-range weapon with an AoE spinning charge attack and a special attack that throws it across the screen, which you can call back like Thor's hammer. After that, you have the shield, which has some short-range attacks, a charge for its charge attack, and a throw for its special attack. The special thing about this weapon though is that when you are holding the charge attack, you block all damage from where you're pointing the shield. You then have the bow, which is a mid to long range attack, a spread volley of arrows for its special, and a power shot for when you charge the attack button and release it just right. It's a little hard to hit at first, but once you get used to it, you begin to hit it every time in a boss fight. Mwah. It's like magic. You then have the gauntlets, which are completely close range, with a volley of punches for its attack and an uppercut for its special. They are very high risk, high reward, as they do have a lot of damage, but you have to get in real close. Finally, you have the gun, which is of course my favorite weapon of ancient Greece. It has a magazine of bullets you can reload, along with a grenade special. As you can see, you have a very wide variety of choices, and whenever you get bored with a certain playstyle, several others are waiting for you. You're also able to bring one keepsake per run and switch it out at certain checkpoints. These keepsakes can ensure your chance to meet certain gods or goddesses, revive once per run, and other gameplay effects. However, I am bad at the game, so I just run Lucky Tooth, which is the one that revives you, because without it, I never beat the final boss. Although, I lose the majority of the time anyway, even when I use it, so I don't know what point I was really trying to make there. When it comes to upgrading and becoming stronger, you can invest a currency called Darkness into certain attributes, such as your luck for bits to be rare, the amount of revives you receive each run, your life total, and many others. You can also upgrade your weapons with a currency called Titan Blood, construct other beneficial chambers you have a chance of encountering during your runs, and more. Then, when you get to the point where you're just straight up making the game easy, you can increase its difficulty in various ways using the Pact of Punishment, which in turn gives you more resources. You can only gather these resources so many times with the same weapon, so the game lightly pushes you to try weapons and strategies you wouldn't try otherwise. This is what makes Hades different from many other roguelikes, this sense of strong, permanent progression. You constantly feel like you're working towards something, and with the increasingly fun gameplay loop and almost infinite combination of modifiers, it is incredibly addicting. This game isn't just combat though. Like I said before, you have the choice to advance your relationships with many other characters across Greek legend, whether that be gods, goddesses, incarnate beings, shades, which is just a fancy name for the souls of the dead, and many others. You do this by giving them bottles of nectar, which you acquire throughout your runs. There are so many characters in this game, and there are many quests and pieces of story to uncover, and it feels extremely rewarding to do so. I also cannot understate the vast amount of dialogue in this game. With only a few exceptions, I don't believe I've heard any voice lines repeated at all, which is crazy for a game where you run to the same characters over and over again. Also, the voice acting in this game is amazing. Every actor and actress brings their A game, and many of them voice multiple characters. Darren Korb not only voices Zagreus, the main character, but Skelly as well, a character that sounds completely different, and a fact I would have not have known otherwise if I hadn't looked up the cast. Logan Cunningham, possibly the most diverse voice actor in the game, voices Hades, Poseidon, Achilles, Charon, yeah, I said it earlier, I can't, whatever, and Asterius, as well as the narrator of the game. I also need to point out the talent of Avalon Penrose, who voices Megira, which has to be one of the best performances in the game. All of the other voice actors and actresses give a stellar job as well, of course, but if I were to go over all of them, I'd be here all day. However, as I said, even though this is a large aspect of the game, you have the choice to do all of this. If you just want to enjoy the gameplay, you have that option. In short, Hades has a deep gameplay loop, where you have the choice of also diving into a bunch of narrative elements and covering tales, stories, as well as quests from those you meet along the way. Now, the game is obviously awesome to look at and awesome to play, but is it fun to listen to? I don't know. The soundtrack of this game makes me feel like I have transcended to a new plane of existence, and then launches me right back when I inevitably see the game over screen. And the person we have to thank for these bangers is none other than Darren Korb, the audio director of Supergiant Games, along with being, like I said earlier, the voice actor for Zagreus and Skelly. This outrageously talented guy is responsible for composing the entire soundtrack, which I have been listening to on repeat for the last few weeks. Whether I'm working, at the store, in my car, spending quality time with my loved ones, or performing brain surgery, I have been listening to The Painful Way on repeat. The amount of atmosphere that the soundtrack adds to this game is unparalleled. The metal music combined with the inky and shaded art of the game is simply a match made in heaven. Let me give some examples. Wretched Shades, one of my personal favorites, plays whenever you activate an Infernal Trove, which is an optional trial to gain some gold, recover some health, or something else of value. The music makes it feel like a duel, one where you decide to voluntarily prove yourself against a horde in exchange for riches. The Painful Way is a piece you'll hear every single time you fight Megira, one of the Fury Sisters. She's actually the first ever boss you'll encounter in the game, as I said earlier, and is cycled out between her sisters Alecto and Tisiphone. Therefore, this is most likely the first bombastic piece you'll hear in the game, and it's quite the introduction. I love the repeated riff of the guitar here, along with the echoing vocals, and put together with the drums, you have a piece of music that gets your blood pumping. Taking a detour from Olympus is one of the more somber pieces of the game, being the theme of Patroclus's chamber. I don't care if I'm saying that wrong. A fallen hero of the Trojan War. The song invokes feelings of melancholy as soon as you step into the room, telling you that this place is simply full of pity and sadness. Now, of course, I could not talk about the music without mentioning God of the Dead, being Hades' boss theme. The extremely quick tempo, booming of the drums, and ominous hum tell you all you need to know about this fight. That you need to be quick, because if you're not, you're gonna die in 5 seconds. I personally believe that the Hades soundtrack is one of the biggest contributors to the game's success. It gives the game such personality and is a gateway into the actual game itself. Like the music? Give the game a shot and have it become intermittent with the gameplay. It also gives you something to enjoy about Hades outside of the actual game. This game is just a combination of great factors that all add up to be one of the most fun gameplay experiences I've, ever experienced. Now, obviously, all the claims here are subjective. You could say that Hades is one of the most boring gameplay experiences you've ever had, that the soundtrack sucks, the art is unappealing, and all of that is completely fair, valid, and understandable. For me though, I find this game to be too much fun. I keep bothering my brothers to play it, my friends, hell I even got my dad to download the mobile version. I showed my mom the trailer of the game, and I think her brain about exploded. I just like talking about what I love, and Hades is just one of those things. I want to talk about many other games and movies too, and you know what, I think that's what I'm going to start doing here on the channel. I'll still do gameplay videos here and there though, so don't you worry. Also, let me know when this video is not up to par, whether that be my editing, fact-checking, audio, dialogue, or anything else. Because hey, that's the only way I'm going to get better. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. Take care now. Bye!